What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. And the NFL Draft is tomorrow. It does not seem real that the NFL Draft is just barely over 24 hours away. It's absolutely crazy. It feels like this is the fastest draft season ever. And joining me today to discuss all things Cincinnati Bengals draft is Frank Laplaca of the Cincy Bengals podcast. How you doing today, Frank?
Jordan, great to be on. I cannot wait. I'm going to be watching every minute for these next 3 days. It's exciting. Going to be grabbing a whole bunch of new players. It's a fun time. It feels like the NFL's back, at least for a weekend.
And it's weird because when you look at the past couple of years, we draft Chase with the 5th overall pick. We draft Burrow with the 1st pick. This year we're drafting 31st. I don't think anybody expected us to be drafting the second to last pick of the first round this season. And it's kind of weird. I'm excited for the draft. It's just kind of hard to get into it when we're not going to get this top 5, top 10 player. Instead, we're basically getting a second-round talent with our first-round pick. We're going to be talking about lots of different draft scenarios. If the Bengals should trade back, if a player falls, what should they do in that situation, and tons of other stuff. But something I feel like isn't really being talked about at all, really, because, the draft has been the main talk for the Bengals. That is, Jonah Williams. His 5th-year option deadline is May 2nd. If the Bengals, do the 5th-year option on Jonah Williams, he would make around $12.5 to $13 million guaranteed in his 5th year in the 2023 season. So, Frank, what are your thoughts on the situation? What do you think the Bengals should end up doing with Jonah Williams?
It's a great question. There's two things that go into play here. One, how well has he played? And, well, there's a couple things, but another thing is how durable is he? And the other thing is you don't want to demotivate the player. So I'm a fan of not picking up his option. And Jordan, you and I have talked about it. He's really only had one healthy season, so you're not sure what you're getting with him. And he's had flashes where he's played really well. Like in the very beginning of the playoffs this season, I thought he played his best football. And then, as the playoffs went on, he kind of leveled out a little bit. So the jury is still out on Jonah Williams, and I wish it wasn't. We're diehard Bengal fans, Jordan, and we wish that he was that elite left tackle that you could just pencil in there for a decade. And although he's a good guy, he tries hard. He's a team guy. He's a Bengal. He just doesn't seem to be that guy yet. Maybe he's getting there. Maybe a couple healthy seasons, he will turn into that player. But given the choice as of right now, I wouldn't pick up the option. That's a lot of money. And you can give him one more test year to see if he stays healthy for one more year, makes the next step, makes the next jump. And then, you can decide if you want to pay him the money then. And if you don't want to pay him the money, you could easily be paying someone else that 12 to 15 million and get another left tackle. I don't know who's coming out next year in free agency, but I'm sure there'll be a couple that are on Jonah's level.
Yeah, I know some Bengal fans might want the Bengals to, the Bengals exercise that 5th-year option on Jonah Williams. I just don't get why they would. I've said it multiple times, and it seems like Bengal fans don't really talk bad about Williams. He's not horrible, but I don't think he's as good as Bengal fans make him out to be. We're talking a guy who was a first-round pick and really hasn't done what we kind of thought he was going to. He missed 22 games his first 2 years, and this was his first full season, and he wasn't really, that great. But and it's interesting because when you look at the past season, he was probably our second-best lineman, I would say, aside from Quentin Spain. You look at this new and improved Bengals offensive line group now, he's probably like our 3rd and 4th best lineman. So to me, when you look at Williams, this past season, he gave up 34 hurries and 10 sacks in his first full season starting. That's, to me, kind of an issue. And we kind of talked about before, you mentioned, there'll be times where early in games, he'll struggle a lot. He doesn't know, the players he's going up against, how strong they are. Throughout the games, he gets better, but you can't have that inconsistency no matter if it's the first play of the game or the last play of the game. You have to be consistent. And $12.5 to $13 million guaranteed, I think, is really ridiculous. Even 12 or 13, even if 8 or 9 of that was guaranteed, I still don't think I would do it, because when you look at some of these other guys, like Riley Reef, I know he wasn't great for the Bengals, but I think he was reliable. Up until he got injured, we signed him to a 1-year deal worth $5 million. I would rather sign a guy who's reliable and has been around the league for, let's say, 9 or 10 million than give Williams 12 or 13 million fully guaranteed. And I feel that this can benefit Williams in a way because, it'll give him, adversity. It'll make him make him want to play better. And I feel like that would be good. There's a target on his back. He wants to play better. okay, the Bengals did not give him his fifth-year option. He's going to prove them, you should have given me that fifth-year option, and he could have the best season of his career. Then we're talking about, 1 year from now, maybe the Bengals extend Williams. But as of now, I just don't see why they would. It really doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and if he has a great year, he's going to make big money. That's where it's at for him. But, the other thing that we talked about is it's hard when you don't re-sign a player for that tender, when you don't take them on for the additional year, because they start feeling like you don't want them anymore. And I just hope that that's not a demotivating factor for him. And he just feels like, wow, this is just an in limbo year and not give his all. But he doesn't really seem like the guy to do that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I'm behind you 100%. I say prove it one more year, Jonah, and then we'll empty the bank account for you.
And it's interesting because, like I was saying, this is kind of a topic that isn't really being talked about a lot because, obviously the draft is tomorrow. And with the draft, there is literally so many different positions the Bengals could go in the first couple rounds. In my opinion, I feel like with our first-round pick, the 31st pick overall, if I had to pick a position, I'm going to say I think it would be corner. I think it makes the most sense. But it's really interesting. I've seen some mock drafts have us taking edge. But it would kind of be a best player available in that situation. I've also seen some mock drafts having us take defensive tackle. So is there any kind of certain position you're looking at here for the Bengals to take in the first round, or are you kind of looking at more so of a best player available situation?
It's kind of both. Like you do want to take the best player available, and I think that should be the strategy, especially picking as late as we are. But there are a couple, when you think about it, you want to grab a corner in the first or second round. Once you get out of there, your chances of getting a starter in the third through seventh round is a lot less. And I know there's exceptions to that rule, but like a position like corner or a left tackle, tackles, corners, those are like positions that you need to get early in the draft. So, as far as the 31st pick, I know, and again, I'm not going to be talking players. I want to really mainly talk positions, but I know that Tyler Linderbaum has been tossed around a lot as getting the center early. And I think that if he was there, that would be a great pick because that would solidify the offensive line. We wouldn't have to worry about left guard. We move Karras over or have that competition there. And you slide Linderbaum in, assuming that he's going to work out and, not be like a Billy Price, unfortunately. But I don't know if we're going to get him. I've seen a lot of mocks early where we do get him, but I've seen a lot where he's going early. And there's a lot of other teams that have their eye on him. And, Dallas being one of them, there's a couple other teams that might grab him there. So if he's there, I would say that would be the guy to get because then you would solidify the line. If he's not there, I agree with you. We have to go corner. Well, I mean, best player available, but I think corner is one that you want to target because there's a few guys that sit at the end of that first round that might be good picks for us. And again, that's a position that you got to get early.
And you look at it, I kind of agree with you. Like, there's a couple of players who I have in mind that kind of want us to take at 31. But, like, I'm kind of more so best player available than taking corner. Or there's a scenario where, let's say, Andrew Booth Jr., the corner from Clemson, or Kyer Elam, both players who are a position need and more than likely are going to be towards the top when it comes to best player available. I want to take those guys. But you mentioned Linderbaum. It's very interesting. I've seen some. I actually saw a mock draft earlier today. Had the Bengals getting an offensive tackle from Tulsa in the first round. I would be really upset with that because to me, when you talk about best player available, like I feel like we have to do that. But if we have an opportunity to have a best player available and his position need, I mean, that is phenomenal. Like I was saying with Andrew Booth Jr. and Elam. But Linderbaum is somebody I absolutely love for the Bengals to get. He's probably the only offensive lineman I'm even looking at for them to get in the first round. As, like you were saying, you have him at center and you have Ted Karras at left guard. And Ted Karras played the majority of last season at left guard anyway, so it's not like it's some major difference. And I feel like that would be best for us. I know lots of people are saying, Linderbaum's arm size. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I just feel like as we get closer to the draft, there's always some excuses with some players, and they might fall and things like that. But when you look at his arm size, it's the same arm size compared to Corey Linsley, the center for the LA Chargers. He's one of the best centers in the NFL, and he was not just the best center in the 2020 season with the Packers, but he was arguably the best offensive lineman in the whole entire NFL for the Packers in the 2020 season. He had a big payday last season when he signed with the Chargers. So to me, I don't feel like that arm size debate. I don't feel like that's really good. I don't get that at all. But Linderbaum to me is somebody I like. But if we're going a certain position, I would like corner. But if those guys like Booth Jr. and Elam are gone, I'm kind of more so trading back if I'm Cincinnati.
I hear you on that. I definitely think that corner is the way to go. I'm not a big fan of trading back. I know I've talked about it on my podcast. I did a post about it recently where I did an analysis of players that were drafted in rounds 4 through 7 over the last 5 years. And we haven't had any starters in the last 5 drafts, rounds 4 through 7. We have McPherson, probably a future Pro Bowler and a consistent Pro Bowler. And there's been a handful of guys that have had spot duty, like Adeniji. Carl Lawson, when he was here, he was a rotational, but he was, a later pick. But there was 34 picks under when I did my analysis, and there were 0 starters in rounds 4 through 7. So I feel, and I call it my top 50 theory or top 50, 60, get as many players as you can in that top 50, 60. And then whatever happens after that, don't worry about it. Even if you have to trade away some, the NFL is so big on draft capital and get as many picks as you can and develop these guys. You don't know who's going to work out, fill the back end of your roster. There's all these philosophies. But when you really break down the numbers, you're getting most of your starters and most of your Pro Bowlers in rounds 1 and 2 and maybe 3. So I'm not a fan of trading back. I'm a fan of trading up and getting as many of those top players as you can.
That's really interesting because I'm kind of the complete opposite. I'm 100% on board trading back. If there's 4 or 5 guys I like, if they're not there at 31, I'm 100% trading back around the Bengals because I feel like it's a scenario where if there's not somebody you're dead set on taking, if you're not in love with the guy at 31, I feel like it'll be in our best interest to trade back because when you look at so many times throughout the past 5-6 years, I know this is the first round pick, but it's basically a second because you're having second round talent. It's the second and last pick of the first round. We traded back to get Mixon. We traded back to get Bates, traded back to get Jackson Carman, and Drew Sample. I feel like trading back has a realistic chance of happening depending if the guys the Bengals like are gone by 31. But you talk about, trading up. Is there anybody kind of in particular or a certain position group you're wanting us to get if we were to trade up?
No, it's not really that. It's just getting as many players that are in that top echelon of the college draft. We know the needs of the Bengals. You want to get out of here with a corner. You want to get out of here with a tight end in the first 3 rounds, hopefully. And in my opinion, you want to get out with another offensive lineman. Those, I think, would be the 3 positions in the top 3 rounds, no matter how they come. And, Jordan, I do agree with you on the fact that if they traded back a few slots and I wouldn't want to trade out of the first round and pick up another 4th and 5th rounder. I just don't know if that's worth it. But if you could trade out of the first round and instead of having 2 top 50 picks, now you have 3, I'm all for that. So I'm not totally opposed to trading back. It has to be the right thing. It has to be the right deal. And like last year, we traded back in the second round and got 2 extra 4th rounders. And if you look at our 4th round last year, it was pretty good. I think Cam Sample's going to be a great player. Deontay Smith, is a borderline starter, swing tackle. So we did get some value there. So you can win in that scenario. But the only way I would want to trade back is if we can guarantee ourselves 3 of the top 50 or 60 players.
And that's kind of the same thing with me. I would want us to trade back, but I would have to, if I'm the Bengals, I have to get at least a top 75 pick in return. I would not trade back at all if somebody's offering me a 4th, because when you look at 4th round picks, example, a couple of years ago, we drafted Malik Jefferson, the linebacker from Texas. He played 9 snaps for us on defense his rookie year, then he got cut. It's absolutely crazy. Even when you look at some of these 3rd round pick guys, they don't really pan out and they have short careers with some teams. And it's really crazy, with Malik Jefferson, something that's absolutely crazy, kind of off topic. Sam Hubbard played more offensive snaps his rookie year than Malik Jefferson played defensive snaps. They were picked right beside each other. Absolutely crazy. Still one of the craziest stats I've seen with the Bengals the last several years. But I completely agree. If you're going to trade back, get a 3rd or maybe a late 2nd. A team I'm really looking at from the Bengals to trade back is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks pick 40 and 41. If you're not able to get, obviously you're going to get one of those picks in the trade back. Maybe you get that 41 too. I doubt it, but you might have to trade your 4th, which I would definitely do that if I'm the Bengals. You would have, 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. But if you're able to get their third round pick, I believe it's 72nd overall. I don't think that would be horrible because, I mean, you still have a chance around that to get a guy like Kobe Bryant, the corner from Cincinnati, a guy like Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end from Ohio State. There's still some valuable players around the 72nd pick, but I agree with you. If it's not in the top 3, I don't really want it because, like you were saying in your post the other day, it's really interesting when you look at, 4 through 7, players we've picked in the rounds haven't really panned out aside from McPherson, which is strange because when you look back in the Marvin Lewis era, it kind of seemed like that was complete opposite. Geno Atkins was a 3rd or 4th round pick. George Aloka was a 5th round pick. Marvin Jones I believe he was a 5th round pick. Auden Tate, he was a 7th, but I still thought he could have had lots of potential. It's kind of weird when you look at the differences between the Taylor era and Lewis era. Like, it feels like in a way our specialty was that, day 3, because you knew somebody was going to pan out. I mean, even Alex Erickson and Vontaze Burfict, both guys who were kind of some big contributors to our teams, both of those guys weren't even drafted and we picked them up. Ever since the Taylor era, seems like we haven't really been able to get those, day 3 guys like you were talking about, excluding McPherson.
Yeah, I agree with you, and you're right. We did hit a lot on a lot of late round picks in the Marvin Lewis era, and I'm wondering, I don't know if it's a difference between Coach Taylor and Coach Lewis or what we're doing now compared to back then. I'm almost wondering if it's NFL wide, where you're just seeing so much talent in those early rounds, and then the later rounds that they're just not measuring up to the guys in the earlier rounds. I don't know. I haven't really done the analysis of every team over that time period, but I know with the Bengals that has been true. And just to piggyback on that, from the drafts from 17, 18, and 19, there were, I believe, 23 guys drafted in rounds 4 through 7. There's only 2 left on the team from those 3 years, Brandon Wilson and Travion Williams. So, and not even starters there. So, it just seems like in the last 5 years, rounds 4 through 7 are for role players. And those guys contribute. I mean, let's think about it. I think Cam Sample is going to contribute for years to come. You have a guy like Akeem Davis-Gaither. I think he's going to be valuable. Khalid Kareem, he plays really hard. And although he may never be a starter, he did have that huge play against the Raiders, which basically saved our entrance into the playoffs. So you're still going to get guys that can perform and do great things. It just hasn't been a case of us getting any starters then.
And when you look at it, Brian Keller Jr. says, I would love Tariq Woolen in the second. He's 6'4" on the outside. Yeah, Woolen's one of my favorite prospects in the draft. He's 6'4". He ran a 40-yard dash of a 4.26 from UTSA. Really, really fast. He has a great wingspan as well. It's crazy when you have a corner like him and Woolen who's so tall. But something about Woolen, I would like for the Bengals to trade back and get him. Like we're talking about, if there's a scenario, if we trade back and get him, let's say at like 40 or 41, I'd be so happy. But I would say the bad thing about Woolen, he's only played corner a couple of years at UTSA. He originally committed at UTSA to be wide receiver. So when you have guys like, let's say, Kaiir Elam or Andrew Booth Jr., who's playing at some of the top competition, playing at Clemson, playing at Florida, when you're playing against these top teams like Alabama, LSU, Georgia, then you have Tariq Woolen, who's playing against teams like Western Kentucky, Marshall, Rice, some of these lower teams who aren't nearly as good as Florida, and a guy who's only played corner 2 years. Like, I like Woolen, but that's kind of my issue with him. He's not had a ton of playing time, but I think he's one of those guys who could be a project player for us. He might be good a little bit in his rookie year, but maybe give him his second or third year, he could really break out. And that's something else when you look at here with the Bengals' 31st pick. I don't really want to draft somebody who's not going to play at all. Like, I want somebody who can contribute to this team right away, because this is a championship contending team. And it's still crazy to think that we were in the Super Bowl this past season. But when you look at this team, like if you give us one extra, I don't know, really good edge rusher, or if we get Linderbaum and move Ted Karras to left guard, I feel like that can take us to the next step. If we reach and take somebody who I don't really think, like if we reach and somebody take 31, I wouldn't really like that, because like that, those players might not be key contributors. You want somebody who can contribute right now. But it should be very interesting, with the draft tomorrow. It's absolutely crazy. So we'll kind of do a 3-round mock draft here from PFF.com. Let's go ahead and get started here. So it's really interesting because there's so many different scenarios. Like I was saying, I like Woolen, but not in the first. If we trade it back and get him, I would more like it. Plus, we get more draft capital as well. I'm always for getting one of the best players available and team need. If you get draft capital out of that as well, that's always, in my opinion, probably best case scenario. So when you look at PFF's big board here, we have the 31st pick overall. Looking at some of the guys who have already been taken, Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan. Let's see if Linderbaum is available. I believe Linderbaum is available. Let's see here. I can't find him. Let's see here. If I'm the Bengals, and if you have the 31st pick and Linderbaum's available, I'm running up to the podium. If I'm Cincinnati, that's just me. He's one of the few players I would want them to get at 31. So is there any kind of player that stands out to you at 31, Frank?
Yeah, I did another mock draft with another page a couple days back, and in that mock draft, Linderbaum was gone, but Kaiir Elam wasn't, and I was thinking that would be the guy to get because he is an outside corner. He runs a 4.3, 4.4, great speed, 6'2", and that could be someone that you could have compete with Eli Apple right away. Maybe a guy who starts. If he doesn't start as a rookie, he's going to still get playing time because you need more than a couple corners with everybody running 4 and 5 wide receiver sets. And corners go down. We've seen it almost every year over the last 5 years. I'm not going to repeat history, but pretty much every year a starting corner seems to go down for a period of time. So if you get someone like Elam, he either wins the starting job or he gets a few starts filling in for an injured player. So I guess that would be my round 1 choice if Linderbaum is gone.
Yeah, it looks here like Linderbaum was taken by the Cowboys. Interesting pick there by Dallas. And I did a video the other day about some players I like for the Bengals to get in round 1. Some players I would like would be, and a couple of these players will probably be gone by the 31st pick. But like I'm saying, I want us to do best player available as much as we can. Kaiir Elam is one. Andrew Booth Jr. is one, the corner from Clemson. George Karlaftis, the edge rusher from Purdue, which I feel like he's probably going to be gone by tomorrow's 31st pick. Devontae Wyatt, the defense tackle from Georgia, I think he might be gone as well, but I've seen some mocks, have him being there at 31 to the Bengals. And, of course, Linderbaum, he's my favorite for 31. But it looks like Elam is gone by the 31st pick. Look at some corners here. Jalen Petrie, he's listed as a corner, but he's actually a safety. That's something, to me, I feel like is very interesting. When you look at this Bengals safety group, you mentioned Brendan Wilson. I believe he's on like a 1-year deal. As crazy as it sounds, Von Bell's contract is already expiring at the end of the season. Jesse Bates is his contract is expiring at the end of the season. We've seen this kind of happen before years ago. The Bengals kind of shocked some people and took Jesse Bates in the second round, traded back to get him. And, like Bengal fans are like, oh, why would they get Bates? They have Laplaca, who at the time was one of our, leaders, not just on defense, but on our whole entire team. It's interesting because there's a situation where the Bengals trade back and get Jalen Petrie, the safety from Baylor. It's very interesting. I know that like Roger McCreary, the corner from Auburn, and the corner from Washington, Kyler Gordon, quite a bit. But there, in my opinion, with Linderbaum, Elam, Andrew Booth Jr., all these guys gone, there's not anybody that really stands out to me a ton. Would you kind of be like, if you're the Bengals, would you trade back here, or what are you kind of looking at here with the first round pick?
I'm not seeing the board. It's too small for me to read. But is the guard Zion Johnson still around?
Let me see here.
Because that would be another thing that I would consider there with that first round pick. Zion
Johnson is gone, but Kenyon Green, the guard from A&M, is available. But if this is the Bengals situation, this is like worst case scenario to me.
You're right.
Like this could be really bad, but it could be beneficial for them if they decide to trade back and get like an extra late second or third. Looking at the quarterbacks here, I think this is interesting. I made a video about this like a week or so ago, and I've talked about this multiple times. Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. Kenny Pickett's somehow available. Ultimately, when it comes to the end of the first round, I think all 5 quarterbacks are taken in the first round. And when you look at Kenny Pickett, I think he should be, gone by now. I would be shocked if he went past the Steelers at 20. Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell, and both those quarterbacks are available at 31. I fully expect the Bengals to trade back because I think multiple teams are going to be calling the Bengals line to try to trade up, jump the Lions to a quarterback needy team, and get a quarterback like Sam Howell or Desmond Ridder to get the 5th-year option on the quarterback. Because if you're the Bengals right here, I feel like if you trade it back, you can get more draft capital, so you don't you don't really reach on anybody that you don't desperately want, and a team could give you a decent amount of picks that you can't really refuse for getting a guy like Sam Howell or Ritter. To me, I think that has a decent chance of happening, but I'm just not sure if the Bengals will be willing to do it. Let's see here. Let's look at. Is there any kind of certain team you look at here, like maybe would trade up with the Bengals at 31? Because I think Seattle is possibly a team to look out for.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there with Seattle, especially with them having the 40 and 41st picks, so they have a little leverage to trade up. And I do agree with you. If one of those quarterbacks falls and they're sitting there around 31, that's going to increase the value that we can get for that pick 100%. And based on what's going on with this mock draft now, and we're seeing all the players we want taken, this would be a place where you possibly trade back. And to go on what you said before, yeah, that you might be seeing the Bengals go get a safety because Von Bell's on the last year of his deal. They're on the fence about paying Bates the big money. And what do you have left? Brandon Wilson, really more of a special teamer coming off a knee injury. Mike Thomas is the other one that they signed, and he's more of a special teamer. And then you have Trayvon Henderson. So they need another safety in that room. And this is possibly where you get a safety in the second round and you kind of groom them to become the replacement for Bates. I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of the league. You can't pay everybody. And, if the draft falls in a certain way, yeah, we very well could be taking a second round safety.
So we'll go ahead and try that trade here. We'll try 40 and 72. The Bengals get those picks, and we would give Seattle 31. Let's go ahead and force this trade here so we do that. I like that a lot. I really think that has a decent chance of happening. And Jalen Petrie, the safety that we were talking about from Baylor, is available at the 40th pick. Would you be all right with that pick at 40?
Yeah, I would say 100%. And actually that puts us in line now to get another top-level guard or one of the better tight ends at that point because there's I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 that are projected for late second round, early third, like guys that we might not have a chance at getting. And, if we beef up like that, we have a chance at getting some of those guys as well.
So when you look at tight ends here, it's really interesting because I've seen even the mock drafters that has the Bengals getting Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State in the first round. But I've seen some mock drafts have the Bengals passing on him with their second round pick. Looking at some tight ends here, they have the tight end from UCLA, Jelani Woods, who his measurables are insane, but he's not really as athletic as some of these other guys. Jelani Woods is 6'7", 275 pounds, I believe. Like, he is a beast. He would be a great red zone threat, but I think it's a little too early in the second round. Since even though we took safety in the second round with our first second round pick, are you still on board maybe taking a corner here with one of these 2 picks here?
Without a doubt, because if you don't get a corner now, don't even pick one. Or like the listener said before, maybe you get the guy that he said in the third round if he's still there, but judging by the guy's measurables, he's probably not going to be there. But yeah, you grab the safety. If you can get a corner there, that's probably the deadline to get one.
Yeah, I'm eyeing, Travis Jones might be best player available from UConn, the defense tackle. Tariq Woolen, I feel like, is also one of the best players available as well. It's really just who would you rather have? I'm kind of on board with Tariq Woolen. I feel like defense tackle, I don't think it's a desperate team need, but let's say if DJ Reader goes down or BJ Hill goes down, then we're in some trouble. But I don't when you look at these corners, I feel like after these first couple guys, there's a significant gap between these players. I'm going to take Tariq Woolen here, the corner from UTSA, with the 63rd pick. Are you all right with that pick?
Yes, I am.
I love that pick. I mean, that's an A+ pick to me. Tremendous value. Look at some players here for the Bengals. Let's see. Any certain positions here you're looking at here with the 72nd pick overall?
Well, assuming now we have the safety in the corner in this mock draft, you have to go for a tight end right now. And that goes with what the NFL's doing. You need 2 tight ends that are functional pass catchers. Drew Sample, he's kind of underachieved, came in as a blocking tight end and still kind of mediocre in that role, unfortunately. And Drew, I'm pulling for you if you're listening. Believe me, I like you as a player. But get another pass catching tight end. If you, like I was saying before all this, if we got a Mike Gesicki and put him in this offense, we'd be back in the Super Bowl, I feel. So if you can get another tight end opposite Hurst, with the wide receivers and Mixon, that's just too many weapons for any team to defend.
And when you look at their tight end situation, I think we talked about this like just a couple of days before they ended up signing Hayden Hurst. We both kind of said regardless of who they sign, whether it's signing Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, whoever it may be, it doesn't change our tight end situation. Hayden Hurst and Drew Sample both have 1 year on the contract. If you get a guy right here in the third round, maybe it's Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State, who's used to playing with 12 personnel, with 2 tight ends. The Bengals have done it a lot the past couple of years since Zach Taylor's been the head coach. And also Jelani Woods, a guy who I think is kind of higher on some teams' boards than we kind of originally thought. I would be fine with either one. Jeremy Ruckert, to me, I don't know. I think he makes more sense to the Bengals because he's a Ohio State player. There's obviously some connections there, but Jelani Woods, I feel like has more upside with his 72nd pick, the tight end from Virginia. Like I was saying, he's 6'7", 275 pounds, and I feel like if you draft him here, it can kind of be like his, redshirt year in a way. It might not play hardly any, but he's going to learn from guys from Drew Sample and Hayden Hurst. Would you be all right with Jelani Woods here with the 72nd pick?
I didn't even know those were his measurables. I mean, that big of a tight end who can get open. I mean, that's a very unique player. So yeah, even if we draft him here and he's not quite ready to be a big contributor, that could be a deadly player in years to come. So yeah, I'm behind you on that.
And it's interesting because it's one of those situations where I don't know if Jelani Woods is like a top 5 best player available in that situation, but like we're trying to be realistic. We're not going to trade back down again and try to get him. Like he might be the best tight end available, and it would shock me if the Bengals don't draft a tight end with one of their within the first 3 rounds. So we have the 95th pick here. This is interesting. Any kind of certain positions you're looking at here?
Well, if you look at the Bengals' history, they love drafting defensive tackles in the 4th round. Once Geno Atkins worked out, or D'Amato Pecco, I believe, was a 4th rounder. D'Amato Pecco was a 4th rounder. So it seems like the Bengals like to target defensive tackle there. And although I don't know the pool of players that's available at this point, but it would seem like a decent investment. Get someone in there where maybe you don't re-sign Ogunjobi, although I think it would be a good idea to re-sign him. And you can never have enough defensive tackles because that's another position. Someone always goes down. It's too physical. You're in the middle of a car wreck every down. So I think you need to have as many good ones there as you can. And this is a spot where we've traditionally gone defensive tackle. So I would suggest looking for a defensive tackle there, because if you think about it, I don't know if you're getting a great edge rusher at this point. You're not going to get a great corner at this point. So now you're going to start looking at alternate positions. Safety is something to look at here, but we already have our safety. Tight end would be something to look at here, but we have our tight end. So I'm going to say I would go for defensive tackle at this point, as long as there was a defensive tackle worthy of that pick.
Looking at the tight end list here, I don't really think there's a defensive tackle here with the 95th pick. I like Haskell Garrett from Ohio State quite a bit, maybe with our next pick, but I feel like 95 is a little bit too early. I don't think there's any defensive tackle that really stands out here with 95 and 95th overall. This is interesting. I feel like this is one of the situations where we might not draft a team need, we just draft best player available. It's like on the 2020 season when we drafted Logan Wilson in the 3rd. I really wanted us to get Akeem Davis-Gaither, and I was really upset. I'm like, there's no way we're going to get Davis-Gaither. We did not draft a possession need in the 4th round. We drafted best player available, and that was Davis-Gaither. Maybe we draft best player available here with the 95th pick against some of these top guys here. And it's interesting because, like, D'Angelo Malone, I know we kind of have a decent amount of edge group, with Kareem, and we drafted Cam Sample last year. I like D'Angelo Malone a lot. It's really interesting because you look at PFF's big board compared to Pro Football Network's big board, there's probably about a 40 or 50, player overall, difference between D'Angelo Malone here compared to PFN. That's somebody I would maybe look at here. I know we have lots of edge rushers, but my thing is, I kind of talked about the other day, if Hendrickson or Hubbard goes down, we're in some trouble. I mean, that's one of the most underrated edge groups in the NFL. But, I mean, like Cam Temple has potential. Osai has potential. Like, he was phenomenal in the preseason, but he's never played a regular season down. I don't think you can never have too many good edge rushers. To me, I'm kind of looking at D'Angelo Malone here in the 3rd. Is there any kind of But like, is there any other position aside from defense tackle you look at here with the 95th pick?
Well, you know what? I mean, if there's a wide receiver that falls there, you always want to add another deadly weapon. And if you look after our top three, I like the rest of our receiving group, but there's not a lot of game-breaking players there. Maybe you get lucky. There's so many good wide receivers coming out these last 2 years. That could be a spot to get another quality wide receiver who comes in at a low price tag. You have this guy on the cheap for 4 years.
And when you look at wide receiver with 95th pick overall, Justin Ross, the wide receiver from Clemson, I'm shocked he's available. He's 140 here. Kind of surprised he's that low on PFF's big board. But he's a guy who, if it wasn't for injuries, would be drafted much higher. And, he has a connection playing with T. Higgins with Clemson. I would kind of be all for this pick if he's available at 95. Would you be all right with Justin Ross with the 95th pick, the wide receiver from Clemson?
Another weapon for Burrow, without a doubt.
Wow, that is tremendous value. I don't know if the Bengals would do it, but I would absolutely love it if the Bengals would draft him if he's available with the 95th pick. And when you look at these picks here, let's see here. I really feel like all of these picks were like Petrie's an A+ because we traded back to get a guy we like, and he's probably the best player available in a team need. Anytime he's a team need and best player available, automatic A+ pick. Tariq Woolen, graded a C-. I don't get that. I love that pick there. Jelani Woods gave us a D-, and Justin Ross gave us an F. That is kind of crazy to me because overall, if this was the Bengals draft, I would probably give it. I would give Petrie and Woolen an A+ for each of those. Woods, I would probably give a B. Ross, I would probably give an A+. I would give this draft an A. Like if the Bengals made these moves in the first 3 rounds, I would be ecstatic because all 4 of these guys are who you can put them right away and kind of be, somewhat big time contributors for this upcoming season. I love this mock draft here.
It is looking good. And, I misspoke before. I thought we were on the 4th round. I forgot that we gained the extra top first round 3 pick there. And, that might not have been a bad spot for a guard as well, but let's stick with the wide receiver. And then now we roar into the 4th round.
So that was our 3-round mock draft. We're going to do another 3-round mock draft here. And we're going to try to see the differences in mock drafts and see like different scenarios, what the Bengals should end up doing. Let's go ahead. Wait, crap. Let me see here. So from PFF, 3-round mock draft, let's go ahead and get started. Like we said, if Linderbaum's there at 31, I'm taking him 100% of the time. Let's see here. I think he was chosen. Travis Jones, the defense tackle from UConn. Jalen Petrie is there again. Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan. Like, I don't really get this because Nick Benito is 38 on here. I think Nick Benito on PFN is rated 77. So there's like a major difference between the majority of these, players here. Once again, this is another scenario where all these guys, like if you're the Bengals, all the guys you kind of like are already gone. Like this is another situation where it's worst case scenario if you're looking for a certain guy with a 31st pick. But if you're wanting to trade back, I guess that's good because multiple quarterbacks are still available, and there might be a quarterback needed team that we talked about, maybe the Seahawks, the Colts, the Falcons, any kind of certain players here you're looking here with the 31st pick overall.
I'm not seeing the list there, but to go back again, if we don't get the center or a corner, I would love to get a guard here. I don't know which guards are available in this tier, but that would be something to think about here too, because then you have 4 new offensive linemen for Joe Burrow, the exact overhaul that we needed. And if we had these guys last year, we'd have our first world Super Bowl ring.
And when you look at it here, let me see here. The best guard available is Kenyon Green. Once again, the guard from A&M. I don't know, like I said, to me, I'm only taking Linderbaum's the only offensive lineman I'm taking in round 1 because if you have him at center, you solve 2 issues with one draft, one player you draft because Linderbaum plays center and Ted Harris would play left guard. As of right now, Ted Harris would play center, but if we don't draft a guard early, I could still see a scenario where maybe we sign Quentin Spain. Like I'm all for that. I've said it a couple of times, but I really don't know. Like This kind of sucks to be the Bengals. Like, this is pretty much the same exact situation we were in the first mock here. Daxton Hill, the safety from let's see here. Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan, is available here. That's somebody to maybe keep an eye on. I know we took safety with our first pick, but it was a second round because we traded back. We got Jalen Petrie, the safety from Baylor. Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan. I mean, I don't really want to run, Bates out of town by taking with our first two picks in each picks. We both take safety. But Daxton Hill, to me, is somebody I'm kind of looking at here with the 31st pick, the safety from Michigan. Anybody kind of stands out to you?
Again, I'm not seeing the list, but I would be thinking about the guard there, as I said. And is Karlaftis still there, or is he gone?
Let me see here. I
would assume he's gone by then.
Yeah, I think he's this big board's way different from PFN. Yeah, he's already gone. So, all right, let's say Kenyon Green or Daxton Hill. So the guard from A&M or the safety from Michigan. Which one would you take here?
I would go to the guard myself there. I don't know the draft value of each of those. I don't know if those are two guys that you could actually trade back and still get. But for the sake of this, I would chase the best offensive lineman available. If the corners were gone, and now you're looking at a round 2 safety versus a borderline first, second round guard, I would go guard myself if I had the choice.
So we're going to take,
because it's still not decided yet, right? What are we doing at that guard position? Quentin Spain could come back, and he was our best offensive lineman for the last 2 years, basically. But I don't know. I guess the last play of the Super Bowl stuck with me. And as much as I liked him over the last 2 years, just that last play where he just couldn't hold on for the extra quarter of a second, where Burrow to Chase could have been one of the biggest plays in Super Bowl history. I guess I still have a little resentment over that. So I kind of want to start over at guard, and I don't think Jackson Carman's going to be ready to start this year. So I would go with Kenyon Green there.
So we'll take Kenyon Green with the 31st pick overall, the guard from A&M, 63rd pick overall. Since we didn't take corner, that's who I'm kind of looking at here, position-wise, or best player available. Like Chad Muma, the linebacker from Wyoming, I think. Let's see here. I think somebody, yeah. What's your opinion on Muma? I mean, I feel like linebacker is not a top need for us, but Jermaine Pratt is a free agent at the end of the season. Davis Gaither, I like him a lot, but he hasn't really proven much because he's not been able to stay healthy. Chad Muma and Tariq Woolen, to me, are probably best player available here at 63. Chad Muma already has experience playing with Logan Wilson at Wyoming. It might not be a top position need, but I really like Chad Muma, that linebacker from Wyoming here, with the 63rd pick.
I'll tell you, if you can get a quality linebacker in the second or third round, that's not a bad idea, because that's another position where guys get hurt all the time. And you're right about Davis Gaither. He's been hurt, but he showed great flashes, but he's not really a 3-down linebacker, in my opinion. He's more of a passing down, third down linebacker. So if they can get another guy in the Logan Wilson mode that can play all 3 downs and is a big threat out there, that would be monster for the defense. So I would definitely agree with a linebacker there if he's in the pool of best players available.
So we'll go ahead and take him there, kind of mix it up. We'll take Chad Muma with the 63rd pick overall. Brian Keller Jr. says, why not take a left tackle in the first round and move Jonah inside? I do not want to move Jonah Williams' positions. He's already proven that he cannot play great at left tackle. And especially, let's say, if we do give him his 5th-year option, he's going to have to play a new position. Or we don't give him his 5th-year option, his final year, possibly less, would be a new position, and then we're in a situation, well, he didn't play bad for a new position, but he didn't play great. So, we don't know what we would do there. I'm not really for moving Jonah Williams a different position at all. That was why I was not, sold on us wanting to get Teron Armstead. I did not want Armstead because I did not want Jonah Williams to move positions. Let's see here. So
I like the way that guy's thinking, though. That's not a bad idea to be thinking of a left tackle. I just wonder, is there a good enough one at 31? Normally, that's like corner. You want it like a left tackle. You almost want to get them in the first 15 or so picks if you really want an elite one. But I don't know the level of the prospect that's available at left tackle here. But I do like the idea. But Jordan, I do agree with you too. If we move Jonah out of position, he's probably going to have like a mediocre year, and the excuses are going to be built in now that he's moved to a new position, and you really can't evaluate him, and it probably means he's off the roster after a year. But clever thought by that listener, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting because if we take offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds, you don't know like what position it'll be for. Like maybe it's left guard, but maybe it's also center, and we'll have Ted Karras at left guard. But we'll go ahead and take Chad Muma, the linebacker from Wyoming, with our 2nd round pick. Then with our 3rd round pick, 95th pick overall. In this one, we didn't do any trades, but in the first one we did. We traded back to get Jalen Petrie, the safety from Baylor. Looking at some players here, any kind of certain positions here you're looking at?
Well, now we're kind of out of the corner market, so now we're in a little bit of trouble at the corner position. I don't know if we're going to get a quality starter here, but it's because we're so low on the roster on corners, you might want to think about one here. And of course, we go back to getting one of the tight ends here as well. So those would be the 2 positions I'd be looking at here, but I'm kind of not happy at the way corner panned out for us in this mock.
This is really weird because, like I keep saying, the big boards on these 2 websites are completely different. Kobe Bryant, I think he's around 70 or 80 on PFN. Here, he's 177 on PFF. That surprises me a lot. Kobe Bryant I believe he was a Jim Thorpe Award winner. Very underrated at Cincinnati. Everybody, when you talk about, Cincinnati's corners, automatically everybody talks about, Sauce Gardner, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick. Not everybody talks about Kobe Bryant, the corner from Cincinnati. I mean, he's playing in his, hometown, basically. I love that pick there at 95. I know the big board ranking is kind of deceiving, in my opinion. I'm all for Kobe Bryant with a 95th pick overall, and that would solve our corner issue. That's best player, one of the best players available in there, in my opinion. In a team need in the 3rd round, that's hard to do, but that'd be a terrific pick there for the Bengals in the 95th pick overall.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a need, and it would be a hometown guy. And I've heard people saying that he's going to be in the same ballpark as Gardner when they get to the pros. I don't know if that's true. I really haven't analyzed either one of their games. But, yeah, if he was part of that big-time defense and he's in even the remote league of Gardner, that would be a great pick in the 3rd round.
So we'll go ahead and take Kobe Bryant here in the 3rd round with the 95th pick overall, and kind of mixing it up in this mock draft compared to the first one. We did not draft any of these 3 positions in order compared to the first one. We took safety with our first pick, but that was a trade back in the 2nd. This one we took a guard from A&M and Kenyon Green. We took Chad Muma, the linebacker from Wyoming, and we also took the corner from Cincinnati, Kobe Bryant, in the 3rd round. I feel like all those picks are very good value picks for us. I would like that a decent amount on the Bengals.
And Jordan, what I'm thinking I'm learning from this exercise that we just did, maybe if we do grab that guard in the 1st round, it kind of hurts us for some of our other needs. We got the guard here, and we're ended up chasing a 3rd round corner and no tight end. So, this mock is very valuable to kind of see how things would pan out if you take various positions. So in the afterthought, maybe I wouldn't go a guard here because it kind of shut us out on corner and tight end.
Yeah, like I was saying, like to me in the 1st round, Linderbaum is probably the only offensive lineman I would be okay taking with because I think he's clearly far and away the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. And like I think we said it not so long ago, I'm just not sold on this Bengals team, developing offensive linemen. Like look at the past decade or so. Jonah Williams, we've talked about it today. I mean, Cedric White, he was a major bust. Jake Fisher in the 2nd round did not pan out to do anything. Billy Price was not nearly as good as anybody thought he was going to. I mean, when you start looking at the last actual good offensive lineman the Bengals drafted, you're looking at like 9 or 10 years ago with like Clint Bowling and players like that. And it's crazy. Like Linderbaum is kind of my only exception, like I'm saying, in round 1. And like you're saying, it's interesting because we're doing these different scenarios. And it's like, we take guard, let's say, in round 1, but it kind of takes us away from some of those other positions at round 2. If we take, let's say, best player available and taking edge and George Karlaftis, like that is the best player available, but, you're not going to get edge in the 3rd or 4th now, and you might miss out on one of the top tier corners in the 2nd. So it's really interesting. We'll do one more mock draft here but this one we'll do it on Pro Football Network because I'm a little more familiar with their big board compared to PFF's. Let's see here. We'll do a 3-round mock draft for Cincinnati, and let's see here. Kenny Pickett's available. That's interesting to me. Like I was saying, I really think the Seattle Seahawks are going to trade up and take a quarterback. They traded up right in front of the Bengals and took Sam Howell. That's kind of weird to me. I kind of would have thought they would try to attempt to trade with the Bengals. But looking to players here, Devontae Wyatt, if somebody had mentioned at the beginning of the show, I like a ton. He's best player available. I would be all for getting him. I know that would rule out the possibility of a way he coming back this season. But Devontae Wyatt, I know defensive tackle might not be our biggest team need, but that's, to me, probably the player I would be drafting here with the 31st pick overall. Any kind of position or player here you're looking at with the 31st pick?
Well, if Wyatt is one of the top defensive tackles in this draft, that's an excellent pick because that's how you win championships. You build up the trenches. And to add another first-round defensive tackle here would, our run stuffing ability would be even greater, and that defensive line would be way more strengthened. We'd be safeguarded against injuries. We wouldn't have to sign Ogunjobi for another $5-6 million. So that's a great draft choice if we can get him there. I don't know in this mock if there are any of the top-rated corners. I guess if Linderbaum's not there, we're always going to be going back to the Booth and the Elams. So if you have a Booth or an Elam available here, you go there. If not, nothing wrong with taking a defensive tackle here.
Yeah, Kair Elam and Booth are already gone. The top corners are Roger McCreary and Kyler Gordon, the corner from Washington. And when you look at the corner groups, like if we take Devontae Wyatt, we can look at maybe Kobe Bryant in the maybe we trade back in the early third with our second round pick. Maybe we get a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, the corner from Nebraska. But I'm all for Devontae Wyatt here with the 31st pick. I would be so freaking happy we did that. That's best player to me, best player available here to me, in my opinion. Kind of look at here with our second round pick. We got a trade offer. The Bills offer us their 89th pick and their third round pick next year for the 63rd. I don't get why they would even offer. That's pretty horrible trade to me. But looking at it here, some best player available. Troy Anderson, a linebacker from Montana State, very underrated, small school guy. That wouldn't be a horrible pickup if pretty much all the guys we're looking at here are gone. Corners, Kobe Bryant's available, like I mentioned. Martin Emerson, the corner from Mississippi State. I don't really know a ton about him. Safety, Jalen Petrie is available, the safety from Baylor. Like, that's kind of crazy. And also the tight end, Trey McBride. Many consider him the best tight end in the country in the draft. He was phenomenal this past season at Colorado State. 63rd pick overall. That would be amazing. Like, that's a position need. That's best player available. So let's see here. Trey McBride and Jalen Petrie are some of the guys who really stand out to me with our second round pick. I know we took Petrie with our first mock. We want to be different. I don't think McBride would be bad at all, and with our second round pick.
Yeah, and if you think about the two positions, safety or tight end, we can go over the long term and say maybe the safety would be more important if Bates is gone or we can't re-sign Bell. But if you're just talking about this upcoming season and you're saying, we'll worry about safety in 2023, then yeah, I would go for the tight end above the safety here as long as they were in the same ballpark, best player available wise.
And it's interesting because when you look at safety and tight end, Hayden Hurst and Drew Sample are both free agents at the end of the year. Look at safety, Jesse Bates and Von Bell are both free agents at the end of the year. So either way, like, you can't really go wrong with either position because both of these positions next season, you're going to need desperate help because you're not going to re-sign both of those players at each of those positions. We're going to take Trey McBride here, the tight end from Colorado State, mix it up a little bit, and, man, that would be an amazing value pick there for the Bengals. I love this mock draft. Let's see here. We got a trade offer for the Vikings. We would give them our third. We would get their, I think, fifth and their third round next year. We would also give them our late sixth round pick. And the Raiders would give us their 126, which is the fourth, and their fourth next year. I don't get why they didn't offer us that.
Right.
Let's see here. Kennard, the offensive tackle from Kentucky. That's maybe somebody to look at here, especially if we decline Jonah Williams' fifth-year option. Like, I don't think that would be bad. I know I said Linderbaum's the only guy I'm taking offensive lineman in round one. I don't think Kennard would be a bad option in round 3, especially depending what happens with Jonah Williams. Cole Strange, the guard from Chattanooga, is the best guard available. Looking at some centers available, Cameron Jurgens, the center from Nebraska. I'm kind of surprised he's available. Honestly, I've seen some mock drafts have him be in the middle of the second. If we have him at center, we can move Ted Karras at left guard, but I don't really trust Jurgens enough as I would Linderbaum to have him be the center and have Ted Karras at left guard. Looking at some defense here, let's see here. Cam Taylor-Britt, the corner from Nebraska, is available. So we've already took defense tackle and tight end so far. Look at safeties. Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati. I don't think that would be bad at all. I think that'd be a really nice pickup, honestly. Haskell Garrett, the defense tackle from Ohio State. I like him quite a bit, maybe in the 4th round pick. There's quite a few players here with the Bengals could possibly take at 95. I would say there's 3 or 4 players I'm kind of looking at. If we take any of those, I would be perfectly fine with taking them. Having them take Kennard from Kentucky, maybe Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati, Cam Taylor-Britt, the corner from Nebraska. And I really like all those guys. Maybe even, Justin Ross, we want to mix it up a bit and make this offense unstoppable.
Yeah, I think the positions that you're mentioning here, I think I would probably go guard or safety here, unless, again, there's some great wide receiver who slips. But as far as the value of the position for where we're picking here, yeah, you're probably looking at the safety, especially if he's coming from Cincinnati. That would probably be a decent pick here.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and take, let's see here, Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati with 95th pick overall. It's a good value pick, and I think that really has a decent chance of happening if we've yet to take safety with our with the first 2 rounds. Looking at this mock draft, holy crap, that is amazing. A+ pick for Devontae Wyatt, A+ pick for Trevor Bride. I would say an A for Brian Cook, for the safety from Cincinnati. 3 team needs. 2 of the first 2 picks are best play available, in my opinion. Brian Cook's one of the better players available. So when you look at these mock drafts that we've done, is there any one that you would prefer than the other ones? What would you say was our best mock draft we've done and your favorite one that we were able to do?
I think this one, actually. But, this exercise shows us that we might not get the guy that we want at 31, right? I mean, we're looking at Linderbaum or one of the big-time corners, or Karlaftis would be a great one. And it's just, in all of these cases, none of those guys were available. So it's going to be a strange draft day for us Bengal fans. But I would probably go with this mock draft that we just did as the best of the 3.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree. And it's best player available, and all 3 of these guys can contribute right away. Brian Cook, out of these 3 guys, are probably going to contribute at least amount. But start of the 2023 season, he might, have a big leap here. With obviously we're not going to be able to re-sign Bates and Bell. He could be a pretty good safety for us. Trey McBride, I mean, we're getting the best tight end with our 2nd round pick, basically a 3rd round pick. Knowing that Hayden Hurst and Drew Sample only have 1 year in the contract, that is an amazing pick. And then Devontae Wyatt at 31, I will be so freaking happy if we end up getting him. It is absolutely crazy because we are now less than 25 hours away from the draft, which does not even seem real to me. I feel like we should still be 25 days away. Absolutely insane. We've kind of talked about the endless possibilities the Bengals could do here in the draft. I mean, they could go guard, they can go center, defensive tackle, corner, edge. Literally, you name a position that's not quarterback or running back, punter or kicker, they could even wide receiver, take those positions away, and there's a chance maybe we take one in the 1st round. It's absolutely wild. I would say this, when you look at the Bengals draft this season, it has potential to be the most, really biggest toss-up ever, because you have no idea who they're going to take because, well, what if this guy falls? Well, and they might do that. Well, I mean, it's absolutely crazy because there's so many different scenarios, and we find out tomorrow who the Bengals draft in the 1st round, probably, unless they trade back. I just cannot wait for the draft tomorrow, and I cannot wait to see who the Bengals end up taking.
Yeah, it is an exciting year in that regard because no one knows who we're picking. I mean, you and I know the Cincinnati Bengals very, very well. We spend a lot of time studying them, and even you and I don't know. The experts don't know. You look at the mock drafts. There's 7 different guys that have been forecasted to us at 31. And that means our opponents don't know who we're taking. No one knows who the Bengals are taking. And that gives us a lot of value here. And we can sneak up on a lot of teams. And this might just be a year of, forget the safety, forget the corner, forget the guard, just best player, best player, best player, best player. And if you do that, you're going to get guys that can contribute. We always go back, and we've talked about it before, where they grabbed Whitworth in the second round, and they didn't need him at the time. And look at how valuable he became to those 5 playoff runs that we had.
It's so interesting because, it's absolutely wild when the draft is tomorrow. And when you look at best teams in the NFL, they don't take position needs. They take best player available. There's a reason why the Patriots were so good for so long. Because, they might have had 3 or 4 good running backs. They had a running back committee because, they might have had a couple good ones, but it took a running back in the first round because it's best player available. Best teams say best player available. And I hope that's what the Bengals do tomorrow. But if you had to pick, if there's one player who you think I would like a good chance the Bengals might take in the first round tomorrow, I know we have no idea, but who do you think, if you had to place a bet on who do you think the Bengals would take with the 31st pick overall?
Again, I want it to be Linderbaum. I'm just going to cross my fingers that Elam falls through the cracks, that there's 5 quarterbacks taken and a bunch of wide receivers, so that it gets a lot of teams out of the way, and it leaves some of those defensive players for us late. And so I'm going to say I almost feel like we're going to get Elam, even though he wasn't available in any of these mocks.
I'm not trying to, have the same answer, but I completely agree. When I was thinking about it today and last night, I just feel like Andrew Booth Jr., I have a good feeling he's going to be gone. I would not be shocked if the Bills took him. They need corner. They might take him at 25. Elam is somebody who he is not nearly as good of a tackler as Andrew Booth Jr., and Elam missed a couple games this past season. He was part of a horrible defense with Florida. So with him missing games and him just not really a great tackler, it might hurt his draft stock a tad bit. I would agree. If I had to pick one player the Bengals pick for the 31st pick tomorrow, I think it's Kaiir Elam, the corner from Florida. I would like that pick a lot. I've seen Mel Kiper have the Bengals trading back by 4 or 5 picks back and still taking Elam, with the Jets trading up to get Linderbaum. Obviously, that would make no sense for us, but, let's say if Linderbaum's gone and we trade back and still get Elam, that would work out pretty well for us. The draft's in less than 25 hours. I just cannot believe it. It's absolutely crazy. Fastest draft season ever. We've really talked about all the scenarios for the most part for the Bengals could do it tomorrow. So, Frank, can you kind of tell some of the listeners who can follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Cincy Bengals Pod. And the name of my podcast is The Unofficial Bengals Podcast.
Make sure to go check out, Frank's podcast, The Unofficial Bengals Podcast. I believe you recently posted a episode just a couple of days ago. And, your content on Instagram is really, really good. You might not post as much as some other people, but yours, you can really tell that you take the time into it because it's really well thought and everything. So make sure to go follow him on Instagram and also Twitter as well. If you've seen my videos before or if you're new to the channel, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers, hoping to get that before the draft tomorrow night. That about does it. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all next time on the Sports 2 Hunt Show.